Carol Leonnig, the author or co-author of A Very Stable Genius, a book about Donald Trump's presidency, joins us for some fascinating thoughts on all sorts of weird stuff. Check it out. You'll love it. Ding the bell, share it with your friends, subscribe to our channel, and leave your comments. Thom Hartmann here with you. On the line with us is Carol Leonnig. She is a national investigative reporter with the Washington Post and the co-author of this extraordinary new book with Philip Rucker, A Very Stable Genius, Donald J. Trump's Testing of America. Carol, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Tom. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks for joining us. The website, by the way, is a very stablegeniusbook.com, and Carol's Twitter handle is Carol, Leonnig. Carol, what, in researching this, I know you go all the way back to the beginning of the Trump presidency, what are the things that you saw early on that have continued that, many of us saw and thought were, well, these were aberrations and, the adults in the room will take control of this, that now have essentially metastasized, the behaviors and perspectives?
One of the things that's so striking about the trajectory of this presidency is increasingly the guardrails are gone. The people who offered counsel, advice, cautions, warnings, expertise, they have been pushed out of the room with increasing alacrity and concern on the part of the people that are left behind. And today, in recent weeks, rather, you've seen the president take that even another notch forward by now deciding he's got a litmus test for loyalty, even among political appointees that he's chosen. He wants to get the most loyal, the most, what we describe in the book as folks who are most likely to give him the answer yes. That trajectory is worried. Go ahead. Well,
no, finish your thought. My apologies.
That trajectory has really worried the people that are left behind because the president was already making decisions in an impulsive way without a really very rigorous process, without accepting cautions and warnings. And now you have a lot of people, for example, John Kelly tried to stop the president from doing things that he felt were against the law or things that he thought would be deleterious to the country's security. He was replaced as chief of staff by Mick Mulvaney, who agreed to withhold the aid from Ukraine that was so essential to them as part of an effort that was going on in the administration to pressure Ukraine to announce an investigation of the president's rivals, the Bidens. So it's that caution and warning and good counsel to yes men that is sort of getting a lot of gas at the moment.
We have a number of conservative and Republican guests who come on this show, pretty much our only guests, because I debate them, and generally that's, it's an interesting and entertaining part of the show, but I've gotten to know a number of these people, and back about 2 years ago, one of them made the comment to me that the number one way to get a job in the Trump administration is to spend a lot of money at the Trump Hotel and be there a lot and be seen there a lot, and to show up on Fox News and praise the president no matter what. And if you do those two things, you may well get a job in the administration, and that's common knowledge among the people who hang out at the bar at the Trump Hotel, A. And then B, I was talking with a Democratic member of Congress last week who told me that the rumor is that the principal profiling strategy that is being used by the Trump folks who are vetting not just political appointees, but even bureaucrats, even people who work within agencies in Washington, D.C., is the publicly available campaign contribution records, that people who have donated to Democratic candidates will be purged or will be sidelined, and people who have donated to Trump in particular and Republican candidates more generally will be lined up for promotion. Those are both really alarming things, but I don't have anything to back up either of them. They both fall into the category of rumor. In your research, did you find anything that might back those up?
Well, your first allegation is definitely borne out in our reporting at the Washington Post. People who show up on Fox News, we've written stories about how well that correlates to getting jobs, being appointed to certain positions or panels. It is a huge help. Again, remember, the president spends, unlike other presidents, much of his morning watching television, including his favorites on Fox News, and TiVos, or DVRs, other Fox News programs, to make sure he catches them all. He's literally made decisions on the fly and tweeted announcements based on themes or suggestions he's heard on Fox News, sometimes in pretty horrific error, but it motivates and inspires him. It's one of his sort of best idea boxes. So it makes sense that it's a place where he looks for appointees.
Yeah. And the purges that are coming? The source of information for them?
There's definitely a purge going on right now, which we've also reported on, that has to do with the political appointees. As for public servants, there are laws governing how you can or cannot move career public service employees. I share your view about that being alarming. One of the best things about the executive branch is that there are people who've been there through all sorts of presidencies and administrations, and their real goal is just facts, information, and implementation. Yes, people at EPA are at EPA because they care about the environment and reducing emissions into the air that cause asthma among children, and which has been on the downward trend because of their efforts. So yes, they care about that, but they're not political or partisan. Yes, people are at the CDC because they care about public health, but they're not partisan in trying to burnish the image of a Republican or a Democrat. And that cadre of fact-based implementers is an important army that every president needs, and it is at a state of incredible demoralization that I've never seen before. It's very worrisome because they're the people that keep us safe in many ways. Right. As you saw yesterday about the coronavirus, the political appointee couldn't answer basic questions about coronavirus. He has to rely on that cadre, and my hope and faith is that they're working their tails off and they're not demoralized and that they're caring about their mission regardless of what the president is doing in terms of considering a purge.
Another concern that I've heard, and I heard this from a political consultant in Washington, D.C., who mostly works with Republican candidates, it was that in Florida in 2000, the Florida legislature, I believe, passed or was prepared to pass legislation that said that the Florida electors all had to go for George Bush, regardless of how the vote recount came out. That got stopped by the Supreme Court intervening, but that was brought to the floor of the House by the Republicans in Florida, I believe, at least according to this consultant, after the Florida Supreme Court ordered a recount, that the state legislatures have that power. The Constitution does not give the power to the governors; it gives it to the legislatures to determine the electoral votes. And that there was a shout out to that in the Bush v. Gore decision by Rehnquist explicitly, where he said, yes, this is something a state can do, and that there are conversations now in several of the red states among Republicans, particularly in Wisconsin, about the possibility of actually having the legislature decide what the electoral vote is going to be, regardless of what the people decide, if there's enough noise made that there was voter fraud in that election, that people, Hispanics who are not citizens, were voting, that black people were in buses going from city to voting. These are both allegations that Donald Trump has made repeatedly and Republicans constantly make on Fox News. In your reporting on this for your new book, A Very Stable Genius, Donald J. Trump's Testing of America, did you find anything, looking forward like that, this kind of, you could call it a conspiracy theory, but like I said, it actually happened in Florida, or nearly happened in Florida in 2000?
It's really interesting. It's not at all something we dealt with in the book. Our book's a portrait of Donald Trump, not speculation about different maneuvering that could be executed to try to give him the second term, or, as some conspiracy theorists say, to give him a third term. So that's not where we travel in the book. But it is a good opportunity to stress something. We call this book A Very Stable Genius, in part because it's the president's own description of himself, and because so many people who work for him do not describe him that way. But let's give the president credit where credit is due. He is a genius at marketing himself, burnishing his image. His North Star has been every day trying to see how he can shape the narrative to his best benefit and effect, and he's done a fantastic job of that. If he wins a second term, it will be because of that marketing skill that he's shown himself so adept at to date.
Yeah.